talk shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, Amanda Murray and Nick Motichka. Please, Amanda, introduce yourself to our audience.
Good morning from Canada. My name is Amanda. I am a teacher and an author, and my vision is to empower people through their own unique creative capacities and just help them fulfill their lives with the empowerment that they feel by actually being creative. And I believe that we are all infinitely creative. So just helping people tap into that creativity. Nick?
Hello. Hello, also from Canada. So I am not entirely sure how I ended up on this show, to be totally honest with you. I've been thinking about that a little bit. I don't really fit into the usual mold that I see with other guests on here, but I guess I'm just here to show people, I guess, what's possible. So I was a police officer for 17 years. I recently resigned and retired from that position, and I'm going all in on a fashion business here in Canada, where my focus is on being local and making clothes from the best possible natural fibers, and just going all in on something totally different in my mid 40s. So that's a little bit about me.
I think that Gnomes is trying to figure out how to get Grant on. Why don't you tell us about the
Thank you so
topic?
much. Thank you so much, Nick and Amanda. And Grant, could you please come out and then come back? Because I'm trying to bring you on. Your thing is not allowing me. It says you need to give me access to let you in. Remove from the restream. Okay, it's not letting me in. So our topic today is, does spiritual make you happy? So we did this topic last week, and then after we realized that the video wasn't actually showing with our audience. They didn't warn us that actually your video is not working. So hopefully today is going to work. So we're going to be talking about spirituality. Spirituality is something that is deeply rooted, and to some people, it provides a really, really deep meaning, and it gives them, those who have their own spirituality, it gives them a direct access point of greater happiness within. And also in this chaotic world, people find meaning when they have some sort of beliefs in their life. So that's what we're gonna be talking about it. And the audience, please, if there are some audience who are whatever religion you might be, or spiritually you are a spiritual person, just type and we would love to hear from you. Okay, we love to hear from you. So over to you. Was it Amanda or Nick who chose this topic?
So it was me. So yeah, basically I've been thinking about how spirituality has changed my life and the direction of my life, and how it's brought happiness to my life. And so I just wanted to suggest that as a topic and discuss that with you guys. So I'll just tell you a little bit about, I guess, my journey up to this point. So when I was a police officer for the majority of my career, I didn't believe in anything greater than myself. I thought that you came here to Earth as a human being and you lived out your life, and then you died and you went back into the earth, and that was it. There was no anything else beyond that, and everything was just chaotic and random and didn't really have any meaning. And not surprisingly, I wasn't a very happy person up until the last couple of years. And so I can say that with that sense of connection now to something larger than myself. So for me, I believe that we're all just energy, that everyone is connected by that energy. And in that, and obviously there's a higher power, something far greater than ourselves that is everywhere and every place and every time. And so in that, it has given me just a lot more meaning to life, rather than my old belief where I thought that, yeah, nothing really mattered and yeah, everything was just sort of random. Now I can see that interconnectedness and I feel that connection to everything and everyone around me. And it's brought me a lot of happiness in my own life. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I wonder what you guys think about that.
I also have believe in spirituality because I don't have a specific religion, and I never have. And in looking at history, I always find it hard because there's so many religions that have so much like wars and different things have been fought over in the name of religion, and so I have a really hard time with the overall religions. Yet all of the religions have weaved within it things that all reign the same in many ways, about being kind to others and the connection to something higher. And so it's interesting how so many religions have the same like core values weaved through them, and yet they're fighting with each other. And so that's something that I've always found very, very interesting as I look at history and I look at religions. And so I've come to the point where I believe that we're all connected, and there's a higher spirit that connects us all, and that I have no right to tell somebody else what to believe. So that's kind of my problem. My struggle with religions is that so often it's, you have to believe this, and if you don't, then you're not going to the place that we're going. and so I've always been like, well, I guess I'll just be kind to everybody and love everybody from that connected point, because quantum physics is actually starting to be able to show evidence of some of the things that religions have talked about and spirituality has talked about for centuries. And so even like seeing people's auras and being able to take photographs of people's auras, and the fact that our tables or our houses aren't even actually really solid, they are made of teeny tiny atoms that are particles that are vibrating and are actually mostly made up of space, but yet they're solid in our minds, but on a quantum physics level, they're not solid. And so it's just completely fascinating. And also, like, if you looked into fractals at all, I like how you said when you were an atheist, you just believed like nothing was connected and all of that. And then if you start look up fractals. Have you ever looked up fractals? Look them up. You will be completely fascinated. They are like absolutely amazing how repeating patterns happen on a large scale and on a microscopic scale. I learned about fractals in a master's course, and I've just been completely fascinated with them ever since learning about them. What about you, Gnomes? I know you have a religion that you follow, and so we come from a different space of not having a specific one that we follow.
Oh, yes, I'm a Christian myself, but as a Christian, it doesn't mean I have to judge somebody. And I know that when you say people are fighting, like in religion, people are fighting, that's why the Bible says, not everyone that says Lord will enter the kingdom of God. Because the Bible says, come as you are, meaning whatever you believe to be true about yourself, God will accept you for who you are. He will then show you who you are meant to be, and he will love you for yourself and then guide you through the direction. For me, I go to church. If somebody preaches, I go to the Bible and then evaluate whatever they said, that does it go with the Bible. So all I know is if you go on YouTube, like what you're saying, you will see there's so many pastors that are fighting who is better than who is better than who. For me, a religion is something that, you know, when you believe in God, it means if I go to the pub and see someone drunk, or if I go to see a prisoner, it means I don't have to judge them. That's what the Bible says. It says love unconditional. And for me, that's what I believe. Even if we don't believe the same beliefs, it doesn't mean that I don't have to hang out with you. But I've seen people making things up. When it comes to religion and spirituality, people make things up. So I tend to go to the Bible and believe what is written there in the Bible. And when it comes to the spirituality, I know I've gone through so much, like I have mentioned before that I was recruited. There was a spirit that recruited me, but then I realized that this spirit is actually false God, and there is Lucifer, his son. That is his agent. So in that way, he actually taught me when you say God, you got to be specific which God you're calling. There's many of them. There is God that speaks through the trees. There is God under the waters. There is God that frogs gods, the crocodile gods. If you got, there's loads. So you got to be specific. So I've learned that through the torture that I have to be specific, meaning if I'm praying like in the Bible, I have to mention God, Jesus, which is the God that I'm calling when I'm praying. So all those things is these things that I had to learn. But when it comes to being judgmental and going around judging people, I've learned that you cannot do that no matter how much you believe in God. And if people don't believe in God, the Bible says they need to come as they are with their beliefs. So that means it means Christianity and believe in God is more personal. It's between you and God, whatever you believe. So that's the respect that I've learned, that I've got to learn to respect other people's path, as long as it doesn't affect my life. I'm not sure about you, Grant. I've had Nick's, and also Nick was saying before he was an atheist, he used to be a very judgmental person. I love that. I've never gone that far, but I love that. And anyway, Lucifer taught me, when he hacked me, basically, he actually hacked me. And when he hacked me, and there was the police, and there was social services, there were doctors, there was psychiatric doctors. But then after all that, I realized actually it was never about me, because he spoke about coronavirus. And these people in Henley, because where I live is a wealthy area where wealthy people hang out. So I did say to them that I promised to zip my mouth and not to tell anyone about it. But he did speak about coronavirus, that they are coming to wipe people out. That was 2016. And he spoke about, but when he put all these people that were lined up, I realized it was never, he was actually showing them that he is on earth. The knives, the police is going to keep them busy. The social services is going to keep them busy, because he came back and said it was never about you. I was giving the Christians messages. They are very, very judgmental. They are Christians, but they go around and judging people, and they don't believe in God. So they belong to me. So I was like, get out. So over to you, Grant. What do you believe about spirituality and Christianity and all sorts?
Christianity. I'm not going to comment on anyone's religion. Yeah, first of all, for those who don't know, I'm a coach, trainer, and an international best. My view on you mentioned about judgment. Sad news is you're probably still judgmental. This is because we're all judgmental, because neurologically we can't not be and don't get run over. That's how we make judgments of whether food is off. Making judgments about me at this very moment, not be judgmental. It's an oxymoron. You know, I'm not being judgmental. If you wasn't, we have to do that. And that's something that that's years ago, because we are successful genes that didn't get made, it could be made judgments. And that's not a very nice truth to digest. There's judgments and judgments, isn't it? Every day. But we're trying. I do, as you know, I'm a human, a profile. It's way beyond understanding people. My colleagues, we profile people.
You keep cutting off, Grant. I don't know why.
You lost the volume?
You keep cutting off.
I have no idea. So you can't hear me?
We can hear you, but
Okay.
But you are.
I have no idea why.
Are
Can't hear
you
me.
closer to your mic? Are you closer to your mic?
Okay, close. The same as all. Pass over to someone else to keep the flow of the show.
So I just talk a little bit about judgment. So back in my previous life, as I'll call it, I was hugely judgmental of everyone that I dealt with, basically. And I think I've told this story before on the show, but a person that I respected, that I worked with, he actually called me the most judgmental person that he knew. And I actually was proud of that at the time, which is just crazy to me now, because I see how flawed that thinking is, and how that put me in a bad place in my life, basically. And I look at it now as, I use it as a coping mechanism. So in policing, I mean, you deal with tragic situations and just super sad circumstances for people. And as a way to deal with that, I would think of those people that I'd be dealing with, whether they were in an accident or had been victimized in some way. I would try and, I guess, get through it by not thinking of them as a full human. And I know that sounds terrible, but that was kind of my way to just get through the day to day. And now looking back, I see that as it was a truth for me, that was just my coping mechanism. And again, I'm not proud of it, but that's what I did. And so going forward and on my own journey of discovering spirituality, I now see how being judgmental like that actually hurts myself. And it's just not a very good way to be at all. And so it's ironic that I've come from being the most judgmental person that people would know, to trying to be the exact opposite of that. And just the difference in the happiness level in my life has been very, very pronounced, let's say, between from that time till now, and just what now makes me happy compared to back then. So in those days, I was very much focused on material things and consumerism, and that the big house will make me happy, or that nice fancy car will make me happy. And turns out that that's not ever going to be the case. And so I've come kind of full circle on that. And it's also quite funny to look back at, I guess, the lessons that I've been taught along the way with my fancy things, and how they brought just not happiness at all to me. And so I'll just tell a brief story. So I like nice things, and so fancy cars and shiny things. And so back when I was first a police officer and started making a little bit of money, I bought a used BMW car, and I put fancy wheels on it, and was basically playing the role at that point. And so I hadn't had the car very long. I went to a family wedding in BC, and the property we were on had a large hill, as most properties in BC have, because it's all mountains. And one of my, I guess, second cousins, he was just a little guy, and he was playing with an old tire, and the tire got away from him and rolled down this hill, went past all the, Chevys and all the lesser expensive vehicles, and ran right into the side of my fancy BMW and put this huge dent in the door. And then, so got that fixed. And then I was driving home one day from, I was visiting family about 3 hours away from where I was working, parked on the side of the road because I was actually feeling quite tired, have a little nap. I was asleep for a little bit, and all of a sudden I got woken up to my head hitting off the roof of the car. And so I'd been rear-ended by actually, it turned out to be a drunk driver. And it wasn't going terribly fast, but fast enough to mess up my BMW again. And then so got that fixed, and then kind of, okay, I don't need the fancy car for a little bit. Ended up getting just kind of a more basic truck. And then just it kept repeating itself every time I would get a new fancy car. So then after that, I got just more recently got a brand new, really fancy truck. And I had it for about a month, went to a family wedding. On the way to the family wedding, I got a speeding ticket, and then went to, we were in an area and we got really bad hail and just completely devastated my brand new truck. I can't remember how much it was, the insurance claim on this vehicle. And then, so had that for a little bit, got rid of that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, now I need a Mercedes Benz. So I got this Mercedes and hadn't had it very long. And one day in the garage, I'd put my winter tires up in a rack above the car, and one of the tires fell off this rack and landed on the hood of this car, dented it all up. And then the guy before me that had the car did some work to it, that he'd opened the computer to get more power out of it. And then water started getting into the computer. So the car, this brand new AMG Mercedes, I had nothing but problems with. And so the point of all this is just this, for me now, looking back, was the universe teaching me that this stuff, I don't need it, number one. And number two, it's it just brings negativity into my world. And so I've really, I guess, moved past that. And I finally heeded these lessons that that the universe has been trying to teach me. And that's another part of spirituality, actually, I'll just touch on quick before I pass it over here, is that for me now, I see meaning in those lessons, whereas in the moment and in the past, I wouldn't have seen the lesson. I just would have been frustrated and just been negative and pissed off, and just it would have spiraled and turned me into a very unhappy person. Whereas now I can kind of zoom, in the moment, I still get frustrated, don't get me wrong, but I can quickly then zoom out a little bit and then see those lessons for what they are. And then when I make those changes in my life, it's amazing to see the difference in my day-to-day when I've now heeded those lessons and kind of simplified my life, and how much more happy I am now with less. What do you guys think?
Wow. Nick was trying to tell you something that flies. That's what I think.
Are you guys muted, Nick and Amanda? Mute yourself and see what happens.
I love
hear you. You don't need to type. Speak. We can hear you.
But as I was just saying to Nick, it just sounds like something that you wasn't supposed to go.
When you're still we can hear part of you, and then you're cutting out again. It's like the mic or something is not connected properly, like when your earphones are like only getting part of the message. Sounds like what was happening with Nick and his with his cars. You're only getting part of the message until you got the full message of like, maybe I don't need this. Maybe this is the universe telling me that, hey, this is a lesson that and that's something that I've learned, that if you don't actually learn your lesson, then it's just going to keep repeating itself over and over and over again. And so I think that's something with spirituality that has helped me a lot, in the fact that it allows me to take a step back. And in any situation, while some people would say it as a negative, I just ask myself the question, what is it that I can learn from this situation? And that's such a powerful question, because then it doesn't put you in this like negative, angry, like, oh, my car just got wrecked. To what is it that I can learn, and what is it that I need to learn from this situation? And I think that's something that's super important, because even for me this summer, somebody hit and ran my car, and I was really upset about it at first. And then I was like, oh, I looked at it and it wasn't actually that bad. And then I took it out to my uncle's house and he just fixed it for me super fast. And like, I didn't even have to pay. I didn't have to claim anything. Like, I just was like, at first I was like, oh no. And then afterwards it was just like a lesson to be like grateful, to be grateful for the people in my life, and to be grateful for the connections that I have, and to learn to not let some little event ruin my whole day or my whole week, which it would have in the past. And so I think that's something that's super important. The other thing that I found with spirituality is that as you learn and grow, you just get connected with different people. And so I learned Reiki just from actually starting to open up to learning about spirituality and the connections between everything, and the connections between people. And I find it fascinating how now science is starting to be able to prove what the Buddhist monks and the Reiki healers have been doing for centuries, which is working on the chakras and healing the chakras by being an energy channel. And I just think it's super fascinating. And I know for myself that it's really helped me to clear everything, and to help my anxiety, which is something that I've struggled with my whole life. And I think that spirituality, if you're an atheist or you don't believe in anything, then anxiety can be something that kind of keeps you stuck and holds you there, or anger, right? Because you're angry about so many different things. And whereas if you can learn to let it go, that's this piece that spirituality helps me for. But I know that people talk about religions, and one of the things that's really, I have some friends who are not religious because they don't believe the specific things that were taught in their church. But the one thing that they do miss from going to church is that sense of community. And I think that's something that's really missing in our society right now, is that sense of community, especially after the last couple of years where we were like segregated into our houses and told not to go out and not to associate with other people. And they talk about the level of happiness really is dependent on the community connections that you have, and the connections that you feel to other people. And so maybe that's something that we really need to look at, because spirituality is about seeing the interconnectedness of everyone and everything. And religions were one of those things that brought people together and have a sense of community. And that sense of community brings meaning to people's lives. So if we're not seeing people in churches as much, or if the church's population is going down, how can we still bring that same sense of community to the world through different means? Because I don't believe that religion or that spirituality happens in a building. I believe that we're all interconnected. And whenever someone says, oh, I'm going to church, I'm like, me too, I'm going to the yoga studio, or I'm going to the mountains to hike, because that's where I feel most at peace and connected. But it's different for different people. And I know that, and I believe that they should do whatever is right for them. But I think too that that sense of community is something that we really need, and in order to raise people's level of happiness and raise the vibration of the planet, we need to build that sense of community rather than division.
Grant, are you good to go? Have you checked your audio? Your audio and restream settings, that has to be on default, both of them, and make sure noise cancellation. Have you done that? Can you speak? Can you speak? Can you speak? I think you're not the only one. I can hear with Amanda and Nikki as well. We get the interference as well. But yours is much stronger. I don't know why. Yeah, I agree with you, Amanda, when you say, for me, before I think what's happening now? Hello, is everything okay? Grant, mute yourself. I think you're testing something. Oh yeah, I used to think that when I go to church, I needed to feel that sense of community. But I followed one pastor. He's a Nigerian pastor. He says when he preaches, you don't go to church to make friends. You don't go to church to, yes, there is a sense of community, but you go to church to pray. You go to church to connect with God so you can teach other people outside and bring them in, because we live in this world. If you look at it right now, there's so many people who are hey, Grant, we can hear you singing. Can you actually hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? We can hear you singing. Yeah, if you look at it, there is so much depression. Younger children are getting into depression at a very, very young age. So if you look at my life when I was like 16 or 14, all I wanted was to hang out with my friends and play with my friends. All I wanted was to maybe go to do my activities and come home. I didn't have time to be depressed. So I just, when you look at it, I think we live in this world where there's so much energy, so much that is going on around the world, and the younger children are getting into, I don't know whether it's our community or social media or celebrity world, I don't know. But for me, when I look at my daughter, like I was telling my daughter, that just focus on being a child. She's 15. I said to her, focus on being a child and just enjoy that being a child. Like Nico was saying, that he loves things, he loves fine things and stuff. When you do love fine things sometimes, and he says his car, how much his car was getting broken every time he gets a new one. It's just so hilarious, because sometimes, yes, it's because sometimes, you know, there are some people who are born, there are people who are angels, and there are some people, that's why the Bible says, whoever you're way, make sure you entertain them, you look after them, because you never know. There are some people who are born angels. So maybe I think you are one of them, and maybe God was showing you that you are my child. You're not meant to live this life. You're meant to live a fine life, but you're also meant to help others. Like if you look at it, how you left the force, and you actually went, this is not the life that I want. So maybe that was the God is showing you that you're not meant to live this life. You're meant to live a fine life that has everything. But at the same time, your job as an angel is to help people, build people. And you were busy buying cars, and cars was getting bashed until you were like, you know what? I'm just gonna live this life that I've meant to live. Because sometimes we do that. If you go to the pub, if you haven't got money, you come out drunk, because people will offer you a drink. But if you go to a restaurant or maybe where there's Christians, you wouldn't come out eaten or full, because no one will come to you and ask you do you want any food. But if you go to the pub, the people who are drunk or who are drinking, they'll come and ask you, can I buy you anything? Can I buy you food? Can I buy you a beer? So that's why they say, God says, come as you are. Not everyone that goes to church actually is a born again Christian. There are some people who have been going to church since the day they were born, but in heaven they're not born again Christian. And that's the thing that I've realized as well, that I love things like Nico was saying. I love living a good life, but at the same time, if I don't have it, I don't stress myself. If I don't have that moment, I don't stress myself. Or if things go, I've learned to appreciate life. I always tell people, like, if I go to church, people will be like, we like how you dress, like your clothes. I'm like, don't you start going around and spending thousands and thousands of money buying clothes. I register to the websites where they sell designer clothes, but when they have special offers, you'll find that I'll buy a dress that is worth £1,000, maybe for £100, because when they have really 90% offers, they email me, so I just buy it or look at it. So I'm like, I have to explain to people, this is what I do. I will never buy a clothes for £500 because I get bored of it. And this is something, this is that I've learned. I don't know if you guys know Irene Phillips from Dragon's Den. I don't know if you know Dragon's Den. Yeah. So I met Irene Phillips. She's wealthy, and she was one of the speakers when I was speaking at Desmond O'Connor. She was wearing this jacket, and she said before she got into spirituality, and she said this jacket cost about £4,000. It's a piece of jacket material. And she said before she go into spirituality, she will go and spend money on crazy things because she's got the money. And when she got into spirituality, her mindset changed. And she realized that, she said in her own mouth, that I would never enter the shop and spend £4,000 on a piece of clothing, because you buy a piece of clothing for £4,000 and you never wear it. You wear it once and you never wear it again. And she was showing us that there are some mistakes as a business person that she's made, and she made so many mistakes, and she trusted the other millionaires as her brothers. So I'm not gonna say the names, and they betrayed her, and she was like, people hate me, but I trusted these people as my brothers. We make money together. And she was like, when you go into business, you have to have some beliefs within you so that you can actually speak to your inner being and make decisions on whether it's the right decision, the people you hang out with as well. So I agree with you, Amanda, and with me as well, with your opinion about spirit being being a Christian or not being live in the judgmental world where it's not really necessary to judge other, but people do. Grant, can you speak?
I can speak, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Can you speak?
Can hear me? Yeah, Amanda
now
can hear
clear.
me.
Yeah.
Wow, how about that? Well,
Yeah.
I went through the settings and they're exactly the same as they were last time. So there's no logic to why it now works. But there you are. But I was fascinated listening to what everybody was saying. Absolutely brilliant. And Nick, you can hear me, right? Great. I was fascinated by your story of your cars every time you got a flashy car. I'm just thinking, wow, the universe or your God or your spirituality, whatever you wish to call it, must have been telling you something that, Nick, you need to be going in this direction. But there you go. Going back to the word judgment, there's a judgment. You've made a judgment on that learning. on that. Yeah, you've made a definition to that, so you've made a judgment that perhaps that's not right for me to go down that route. So we do all make judgments, but of course it's about trying to be unbiased. So what I was saying was, in my human behavior profiling, when we profile people, and you mentioned Dragon's Den, quite often we profile Dragon's Den very often. We look at the dragons, or in America, the Shark Tank, or Australia, the Shark Tank. So we do all of those. We profile not only the sharks or the dragons, but of course the people actually doing the pitch and how they could improve it. But when we look at this, to make sure that we're trying to clear our judgment first, because we are all biased. We know this, neurologically, we are biased. We have to be. This is how we survive. This is how we don't get run over when we cross the road. We're making judgments of movements, time, speed, based on the past. So it's bringing out the past, and we're making judgments for today. This is how we are alive. We are not the product of the genes that got wiped out by dinosaurs or fell down cliffs. We're the successful genes that survived. So we done that because we did make judgments. I know what you're all thinking out there. You're thinking, oh no, but I don't make judgments. Guess what? You just made one right there. That's a judgment. So yeah, we all do, and no one gets out of this one. But we try not to judge other people. So that there's a range of tools that myself and my colleagues use, that before we profile someone, we try to clear our judgment first. So we go through a selection of questions to see what category we're automatically putting that person into, and to try to dial that in to our profiling of them, to say, okay, yeah, but I have gone in with this cognitive bias, or because of my personality type, I'm going to be more akin to this kind of person, or not with that. So we have to do that and then calibrate it accordingly to try to dial it down, because we do judge. So I think we can't stop judging, but I think we can be aware of that judgment with certain things. I was having a conversation with a colleague last night and saying that blah, 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 when this happens. But of course, you have to be careful because of who you are in that situation, how you will perceive that. So you have to become, and calibration, I think, would be the key word, to calibrate your own judgment in different areas. Because if you look at it as a zero judgment, minus 10, plus 10 or something, where are you on that scale with a given subject? Could be with politics, could be with religion, could be with spirituality, it could be with people who always butt in. Where is your judgment level on that? So we can calibrate it and try to get it to that 0 level, so that you can try to see the true person rather than the person that you're seeing through a different color lens. So easy to say, not so easy to do in practice. But this was my point. Momsa, you mentioned about different people's religions. Well, some people, their favorite football team would be the closest thing that they've got to a religion. Okay, and that's not me, by the way, but certain people. So who is your God? Who is your religion? What is spirituality? So a lot of people talk, don't they, about spirituality, as opposed to, some people say, are you religious, or maybe you're a spiritual person, kind of. And the way I interpret that is, do you feel that there's something out there, but you may not be following some particular denomination? I certainly feel there's energy. I think everything is energy. There are signals out there. I talk a lot about our primeval instincts, and they are deep inside us. Why we're scared of snakes, why we're scared of fire, that's installed in us. That's installed because fire can be dangerous. We should be scared of fire. It's a warning mechanism, caution. It's a primeval thing. So with that in mind, I think years ago, when the world was less complicated, we were more in tune with our instincts. We were more in tune with what was going on. Nowadays, that has been nullified, because half the time we're walking down the street doing this. I mean, when I walk down the street, I'm looking ahead and dodging people who just aren't looking. So their radar isn't on. They're not picking up what's going on around them at all. So where they had that spidey sense, that's reducing, because their focus is going on to that. And I'm not condemning phones. I'm just saying, energy goes, where your focus, focus goes where your energy flows, and that's exactly where their energy is flowing to. So by the time you're doing that, you're not tuning in on things. And there's been periods of my life when I've been, super busy in the corporate world doing stuff like that, and that stuff slips away. Prior to this, Nick, you'll understand that you as a police officer, I was a private investigator, and I had this conversation with a colleague a few days ago. You do tune into things. There is a sense. I can't scientifically prove it, but I feel you can build an instinct for certain things. You can, try and prove that in writing. You can't. A lot of the time, you're working on a hunch, which is probably based on experience and memory and judgment. And you go after these things and say, you know what, this has happened so many times in the past, there's a good average that's going to be there. So I think we can tune into things. And I think we can tune into spirituality. It's my thought. We can tune into it. It's there. It's around us. Some people choose to tune into it, just like a radio frequency, and some people don't. And I think there are signals out there. There are messages. There are things. Sometimes I used to, I mentioned this years ago, that I used to be very good at dogmatically working and making things happen. I could really, really make things happen. Nowadays, I don't try too hard to make things happen, because I used to make an awful lot of things happen, which in hindsight shouldn't have happened. I forced a lot of things. I forced a lot of success, where when you got it, it wasn't the level or the right type of success that you really wanted. So now, I may talk with big companies, they may want to hire me, and I will say, yeah, I would like to work with you. And people say, oh, are you nervous? I said, no, I've done my thing. It's either going to be right or it's not. And I said this yesterday, I said, it's either going to be right for me or I'm going to find a different opportunity. And I believe that ties in with spirituality. I think there is something out there that's looking out for me and guiding me, rather like Nick with your flashy cars, that it just didn't seem to be the thing for you. I think there's something that when things go wrong, it used to worry me. Now I think, thank you. I was going a little bit off course and you probably just said, nope, not that way. That's where you're meant to be going. And I would define that in my own ways as spirituality. So to answer your question, does spirituality make you happy? It makes me relaxed, because I feel there's a radar out there which I don't have to operate. But if you just choose to tune into it, I think it's guiding you for your best benefit and for the benefit of other people around you. So I think it all works out good when you just choose to relax, tune into it, and be guided. That's my view. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so, Grant. Yeah, that definitely resonates with me for sure.
That was my decision, the scriptures today. So it seems like isn't your fault to Grant is restream. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Nomson.
Can you hear me? Okay. Oh yeah. It was. I made a decision this morning that actually I read the scripture, and I made a decision this morning. All my life, I've been, if things are not working well, I get all the grief. I get like in my heart gets troubled. I should actually relax and let God guide me through, because the scripture says, I will bring the advocate. I'm going to my Father, and I'll bring the advocate to life. Even like with the grandma dies, I just worry why it's like the queen is dead now. I should be looking back to good memories of the things she did, instead of being troubled of and she's gone. So I was like, I just need to ask for some guidance through, and so that I get the guidance, and my heart needs to remain where it is with I need to be happy, when things go wrong, when get covered with grief and trouble and all these things, worry. I was like, I need to relax. Like Nick, you were saying, the passion when you were talking last week, and I felt it in my heart. So I need to be in that space of peace within my heart, no matter what happens. So I need to meditate so I can be in that place. So thank you, Brand, for that. You were
And
funny
Grant,
when you were talking. Anyone who wants to have a comment?
yeah, with
Nick or
you were
Amanda?
talking there about. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, just talking about how we all have free will to choose what we do in our lives, and how just society now, there's just so much noise, and so we just miss that intuition and that guidance that is ever present. We just need to get quiet and listen to it and then follow it. And I've found that in my life is when I do get quiet and act from that inner knowing and that intuition. And then if things aren't going well, not to force things, because in a lot of situations, like Grant, I'm sure you had those experiences, is where those situations where you force things and just through sheer will and determination you made things happen, it ended up probably not being the best situation for you, and it just wasn't the right thing. And so it just shows you that we all do have that free will in all of our choices. And I think the key is to, like you said, get quiet and listen to those little nudges and what feels good in your heart, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment logically, and to just get more in the flow of life. And to, when new experiences or opportunities come your way, and it's something that maybe your ego or you want to stay comfortable, you think, oh man, I don't know about that, but it's an opportunity that presents itself, I feel like that's the time when you need to just go with the flow and take on those new opportunities, even if it doesn't, again, make logical sense to you, just to get more in the flow of life. And I think there's a lot of happiness in that, and not feeling that burden of having to force things and being so much in control. Is just kind of letting things play out the way that they're supposed to.
As you guys were talking, I was just looking up happiness a little bit on the side too, and the connection to spirituality. And one of the things I found, that there are spiritual practices that explicitly teach happiness as the goal. And in the Dalai Lama's book, The Art of Happiness, the Buddhist leader actually talks about why happiness is so important. But he says that life isn't based on seeking personal happiness by nature of self-centered and self-indulgent, because he actually found that this is actually the opposite of happiness. It actually makes you more unhappy, because the people who are the most self-focused and socially withdrawn are actually the most unhappy people. So it's that interconnectedness that we've been talking about, and that connection to something bigger than ourselves, that actually brings on more happiness from what the Dalai Lama is saying, and other spiritual leaders are saying, is it's not that. And I was thinking, as I was reading it, I was like, when you were searching for those cars, Nick, it was that like self-indulgent happiness. You're like, yes, I got my car, right? And then it actually turns out you're like, oh, I didn't. This isn't making me more happy. It's actually making me more frustrated because of these things. And so when we're pursuing a happiness that's more interconnected and more based on a love for the world and a love for others, I think that's when we're actually going to be more filled with happiness. And that's why service to others is so important, because when you're actually giving, you actually are receiving at the same time. And I think that's something that sometimes when we're focused on our like self absorbed goals, we sometimes forget that like we actually get more out of helping others and giving more than we do when we are receiving in some cases. Like when it has to be that like energy exchange of like, I'm doing this to share my love for the world and share that positive energy rather than that self-absorbed energy. And I think that's something that sometimes we forget about. And it talked in that article that I was just kind of scanning through, that this lady was really suffering with depression, and so many people suffer with depression. And she went to her doctor, and instead of getting antidepressants prescribed to her, the doctor said, your medication is going to be to meditate for 15 minutes every morning. And that actually completely helped her, and she didn't need medication. And I don't think that happens on every single case, but it is something that is super powerful, and maybe something that we need to try more often than just being like, here's a pill to cover up the symptoms that you're feeling. I don't think every case that's the will be the complete solution, but it definitely maybe should be the first step. And then maybe the second or third or fourth step would be like, okay, those things didn't work, now try some prescriptions. But I think that so often we just go to that quick fix of like, this is going to help me quickly, and when really there's some deeper level work that we need to do, and it could be something that we find within ourselves.
That's a great point you make there, Amanda. That's a lovely point. Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about meditation. Of course, it's not going to be, like you say, for every case it's going to work. But there's so much. I was having it's amazing the things you're talking about today is triggering so many memories of conversations I've had in the last few days about people. Last night I was talking about medication to someone, and I was saying, yeah, you really, because I was saying about the side effects of the medication they're taking. I was like, is there any alternative to that? And they're not remotely holistic, this person. Lovely, dear friend of mine, dear friend, but they're not remotely holistic. I said, you ever sort of considered meditation or hypnotherapy, which could help with that? But of course, they got all kinds of concerns around that. I said, okay, do you want to talk through those concerns? Because they're not real, it's just a feeling you have. But I do feel that a lot of time, a lot of things are in the mind, because once you learn to let go or reframe or look at things differently or just approach it from a different angle, call it what you will, it can, with a lot of ailments, of course not all, but with a lot of ailments, it can change, stop, or reduce them. It really can, and it's something I would like to see people use, or at least try a lot more often. And I feel that is a much more spiritual approach to things. Yeah. Anyone got any thoughts on that? Nomsa, you look like you're about to say something.
Yes, I like when Amanda said it's important. Amanda said, she said it's important to serve others. I agree with Amanda, because when I was going through my business journey and having a relationship with customers, I realized that when it comes to my business, it's not about me. It's about clients. It's about saving them. Even if I have feet with my thoughts, I will do it to make sure that you get a good service, and then ask somebody else to come back, because if I pay your money at the end of the day, and if I don't serve you properly, it's not going to work. So when you have a business, I look at people, listen to people when they have business, they focus on the prices, they focus on their worth, they focus on so many the trainings they have done. It's all about saving, understanding the power to serve people, and the power of giving. There will be so much energy wants to more and more, because you are getting out. And that, and also is all about energy. But for those who are Christians, when you watch this video, you've got to be specific which when you say I'm fasting or you say I'm praying. I made a big mistake in that journey where I used to think I'm a Christian, but when I pray, saying God, God, but I didn't know that so many gods. So them, they come in. So if you can't fit, then you will be calling things to come to your way. So make sure that when you pray, or if you know how spiritual works, for me, I believe Christianity, and I believe that there's only one God for everybody. Even these gods that they pass, our God is their God. So I believe that there's only one above them all. Even Buddha, when I listen to the story, people telling me the story about the prophets, and I'm like, but you're talking about Jesus when you say God went away and send another prophecy, and they are actually, the Bible says, I will send another prophecy, an advocate, which is the Holy Spirit. I'm like, he never put out whoever is worshiping, he never said as a prophecy, he never said to follow me as your God. So I'm like, where is it where it says follow me as your God? So I like to listen to people make stories, and I had to ask as well, preaching, saying these people that people are never ever said to follow me. The way about Jesus, they made themselves wearing Jesus Christ. So I'm talking for the experience that I've experienced. I had to get down on my knees and ask for forgiveness after when these gods were alive. When at the moment I decided that I want to actually, the God that I was calling, it was actually Jesus. He spoke, and I had to ask for that forgiveness. It didn't end there. It was a big issue. That's why I'm saying when somebody gets into Christianity and gets into spirit, you know that there were specific things that you've got to understand. So if someone says I'm gonna go to Christianity and spirituality, you've got to understand where you're getting into, and I've paid a heavy price for that myself. 2016 and 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, spend time asking for forgiveness. I spent these other gods were coming and showing me that when you start, you have specific which gods you're calling. If you say you're worshiping Buddha, Buddha is not actually a God. People have created him as a God. He is not a God. He is an idol. When you call them, it becomes an idol. So those were the things I couldn't understand. When I go to church, I get told how to dress as a Christian. I go to how to do my hair. I'm told no one has ever explained until I was going through, and he was like, how many times do you go to the doctors? I explained to them. So he had to explain to me that knows that there's no such thing as sickness. Sickness is energy that comes to you, but you have to learn to disconnect it. So I've learned to disconnect. When I have flu, I just put Vaseline in my, for me to see that is actually flu that I have, I put loads of Vaseline in my ears, dab with Vaseline, and then it disappears. Now I'm like, this is creepy. So now I'm beginning to understand that wherever we go, there's so many energy that creeps out. Like we live near the graveyard. Obviously, there's gonna be some energy that is wandering around. Times, because I'm in a point where I feel it when it comes in, and I tell them to get out. That's not when you can go back to your grave. So if anyone gets into spirituality, you ask the questions, what are you getting into yourself into? And also understand, because there is a price to pay. And Amanda, you talk about aura, and yeah, all those things. I have a picture on Facebook that I look like I'm actually green, like a vampire, when my children were filming, because some of the actresses, they're into so cold. So I took a picture and I was like, what's the heck is the aura that was close to me? That was what happened, in which I think it's a snake. It's a god. That is a snake. One of them joined them as occult. So I didn't know, because it was the filming studio and stuff. So I put that picture on Facebook. That created like, what's going on with there? I was like, don't worry about the picture I'm putting on Facebook for my memory. But a lot, like to say, like Amanda, you wish there are people that can scan now, and then I was like, this is what happening in the world that we don't know about. I green on each other like a vampire. Where is Grant? Any words of encouragement? I think we've gone over time, Amanda.
I'll do my words of encouragement because I have to get to work.
Yes.
I think
please.
that if you are struggling with your how you're feeling about life, and how life is just getting you down, and you're feeling disconnected from things, start to open your eyes to the interconnectedness of everything. Start to open your eyes to the energy that you feel when you walk into different rooms, and you will be amazed at just how your life begins to shift when you see the interconnectedness of different things. And also, when something happens that you would view as maybe a negative, ask yourself the question, what can I learn from this situation? And it will completely shift your perspective, because it will help you to then go, oh, why is this happening to me? To how can I learn and grow from this? And this learning and growing part is so important on our journey of life, I believe. Nick?
Yeah, I love all of that. I can't really say anything better than that. I'll just one last thing is just, I think we just need to get quiet more often, whether that's a meditation, whether that's getting out in nature, going for a hike, hugging a tree, whatever that is for you, is just to get quiet, and then to actually listen to what your guidance is telling you. And what I mean by that is just like, how does it make you feel? Like when you go to work, like, how do you feel? How does this certain person make you feel? And then, or this situation, and just then listen to that and try and bring in more things that make you feel good, and maybe put a little more distance between things that don't make you feel so good, and make choices from that inner knowing. And I think that's a good start. Grant?
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, I mean, great points made by both of you. Absolutely spot on. I think in life, people are always looking to other people for advice, where really, although that can give you a range of options, really, it's always about your operating system, how you operate. So I think it is about taking that time out. Definitely about taking time out, scheduling, and I mean schedule that important time out. Where I always say to people in a business, when have you scheduled your holidays? Why? Because if you work for a company, by law, you have to take a holiday. It's health and safety. You have to rest. It's a part of the plan. So if you run your own business, you have to have that same discipline and schedule a holiday. It's part of your continuation program to make sure that you're in good condition. So take a holiday. But why don't we take that down into bite-sized chunks, and each day, each week, take a little bit of time for yourself? I know everyone's busy. I'm busy, you're busy. But you really want to be busy taking that little bit of time, that undisturbed time, that time out in nature. And I get my clients to do exactly this. Spend a bit of time so that you can learn to tune in, put that radar on, and tune into that spirituality that's out there, that energy force that's out there that's guiding you. So listen to other people's ideas, that's fine. But if it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. Don't try to make it work. Instead, take some time out, be in nature, or whatever it is that relaxes you and allows you to tune in, and then be guided by that, because it often guides you to your best future. That's what I wanted to say. And Nomsa, how about you?
Thank you so much, guys. Me, I'm going with Nick. Just this noise, and us get into a place where you go quiet and just find that guidance is personal, and find that guidance, find that peace in you, so you can whatever you believe, can get guidance to go through the day, to go through challenges, times, whatever you might be going through, and know that everything is gonna be okay. People intended to wanting to go on social media. She's doing this, I'm gonna do this. We are all individual, all have different angels that are guiding us through, all have different talents. If things are not going well, or okay, celebrate yourself and have your journal. It's very, very important. Journal and a pen, and just journal things that you are grateful of every day. Even when things don't make sense, like Nick was saying before, keep going with the positivity and that guidance. You don't need some laws of advice or things. It's just that guidance is within you, and the energy that guides you. God is whatever you believe. It's all personal. And don't listen to people who are judging you, because you'll find that when into people that are judgmental, I've never gone to judgments to, like, maybe if somebody tell me their beliefs, because I'm a Christian, I'll be like, I shouldn't be listening to this. I've learned that the hard always listen to other people, their belief. Just by listening, it doesn't mean you believe in them. You are just supporting them and through what you're going through. So we are here at Gospel Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And if you want to listen to Amanda's stories, follow Amanda, follow Nick, and follow Grant, and follow me on social media as well, or get in touch with Voice and Lead from Within. Live with grace, everyone, and God bless.